Sausalito, more than just a picturesque town on the bay, it's a launch pad for extraordinary lives and unique stories. Journey with us through 3 captivating episodes. First, meet Surreal Daramo, a Sausalito-based citizen of the world who takes on the vast oceans in his solo kayak. Then discover the enchanting world of Leisa Snyder and the historic floating home community. And finally, join us as we explore the vibrant heart of Sausalito, uncovering local haunts and favorite spots that reflect the spirit of this unique coastal community.
I am the most peaceful, the most centered, and still excited, still motivated to do my best work.
Okay.
This place feeds me. It can be everything.
Welcome to the Bay Insider. My name's Ying, and I have my co-host Amanda here. And we also have our lovely guest who's in green, Leisa Snyder. Leisa is an interior designer, and I have known Leisa for a number of years through paddling buddies. She lives on this beautiful houseboat. No, floating homes. What's the name of the dock? Issaquah.
Issaquah Dock, all the way out on the water's edge.
Yes.
Absolutely beautiful.
I used to call them houseboats. Then I learned they're not houseboats.
That they have a foundation of sorts, right? And so they're actually floating on a foundation.
Yeah, they don't have a motor.
That's
basically
You can't drive away.
You cannot drive away.
And if you go to Sea Trek and you do a kayak or a paddleboard, you can kind of wind in and out of these areas.
Absolutely, they're accessible.
Get perspective, which is really cool.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, first of all, they're so beautiful to look at. They're all different colors and shapes, different architecture, I would say, right? When you say different architectural styles. And they all have kayaks and paddleboards. And you are a big paddleboarder. And
since I've moved here, I've become one.
That's right.
So you were not before you moved here. That was something you picked up.
Really?
Not at all.
So I think this is a good point for us to take a quick step backwards.
Okay.
To better introduce Leisa in terms of what you do, how you ended up here, kind of your journey to the floating home.
Absolutely.
It's a fun one.
Yeah, but I guess let's start from very beginning. You are an interior designer.
I'm an interior designer, and I used to own a retail store for 8-10 years in Mill Valley.
Okay.
We moved to the city, and then when I had opened a design studio here in Sausalito, so I was commuting all the time, and moving to the houseboat was honestly something that I've been longing for since I was in high school.
So it's kind of like a little fantasy life that you imagined living.
Right. I took a trip up here, walked down a dock to visit a friend's mother, and I went, okay, this is really special. At some point I would love the opportunity to live here. So it presented itself. COVID hit. I had my business over here, moved here. Ideal life. I mean, you're in nature and you're protected, and it was a great place to go through that time in our lives. And I'm still here. I love it.
5 years later, you're
still
here.
here.
So last 5 years, you have been paddleboarding daily.
Yeah, I started with Sea Trek, an outdoor gym, and I was introduced to a paddleboard, and we fall a lot in the water, and I'm like, okay, I can swim, this is good. And I just took to it, and I love it. I really love it.
And it must be so amazing to just go right from the dock in your backyard or your front yard, I guess.
It is accessible. Yeah. It's like going for a run, you know, on land, or it's just an incredible experience to be on the water and to be really connected to nature. And it's a really good exercise.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Core work.
Yeah, it is awesome. So we want to go back to the history of the floating homes a little bit.
Right, in this whole area and when it began, right?
Right.
Which was by 1906 earthquake, right?
Everything started with the earthquake, isn't it?
Yeah, right. We keep going back to that in San Francisco and here, there's so much movement and change.
So there was a song called "Sitting on the Dock of the
way
Bay"
after the earthquake.
By Otis Redding.
Right, but that's associated with this neighborhood, right?
Absolutely, he wrote it right out here.
You sent me this very interesting video clip about the history or the beginning of the floating home community. Can you tell us about it?
It's fascinating. In our lifetime right now, I can introduce you to a lovely woman, and she owns a business here. She grew up on the houseboat.
Okay.
I have a book, Sausalito, I can show you, and it really captures very much what was in the video, which was the alternative lifestyle that people chose to live on the dock and create a community.
Yeah.
I think they're like-minded people were to live in a community with less rules and regulations and affordable. Right?
Yes. Back in the days.
Back in the days.
It's no longer, I would
no
say.
longer that way.
Right?
It's definitely a luxury. Definitely.
Right.
There's still that essence and the core of collective people, like-minded, creative. We can go on about that.
Yeah.
It still exists. Mm-hmm. So the desire to have a community that's alternative is here.
Right.
Yeah,
and it feels like people out here kind of live by their own rules a little bit.
We're not removed from the world. We're not, by any means. We are connected to land.
Right.
But I will say there's a diversity here. Mm-hmm. Whether they have lived here, I know people on the dock 2 doors down. She's been here 45 years.
45
she's
years.
50. You know what I mean? So she's lived here since she was young.
Okay.
You have people that just bought new homes.
Right.
Here.
And you were saying, people love a party, right, around here?
Oh my God.
It's like a thing that happens a lot.
Maybe
Every
shouldn't
Friday
say
night.
it. But people live lively. They
Yes.
live in community, and it's there's special things that all docks do, and on this dock it's called a dock alert. So at any time, any person that lives on the dock can call a dock alert.
Okay.
Which means they give a time, and maybe it's for purpose, maybe it's not. Maybe it's spring. We just had one called a doggy alert because a dog alert because instead of a dock, because one of the owners here, their dog passed, and so everything was themed around dog and adult treats.
I see.
And it was a collection, and people came out and played music,
like
and
a
people
celebration
danced
of the dog's life.
Yeah, and it's collected at the elbow. I think when you're walking down the dock, when it turns, called an elbow. So that's the beat. If you have a dock alert, that's where it's at.
And how do you find out about these alerts? Is there a bell that gets rang?
Word of mouth.
You just yell at each other?
We have a way of communicating. It's called Dock Peeps. People, but it's PEEPS. And so it's announced through that in an email.
Email. Okay, that's
and we have
awesome.
dock representatives that are fed this information, and their responsibility to feed it out. And it's also just knocking on doors. Hey, 5 o'clock over here, you know? So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Back in the days, this community was like the free spirits, right? When it first started.
60s, 50s.
Exactly, 50s, 60s. Right?
Experimental.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of
poets and
artists, singers, I guess. Mm-hmm. That's the beginning of the floating home community. But now it's, like you said, very diverse.
Very
melting
diverse.
pot, right? So just describe to us, who live here.
Oh my God, it's so fascinating. It's so fascinating. I've met, scientists. We have a wonderful woman here, very entrepreneurial, has incredible resources in the understanding of the mind and how the brain works, And she's created these wonderful products and process of dealing with people with mental illness, dealing with chronic pain. We have
Oh my
artists
goodness.
and poets. We have film documentaries, 2 on the dock right now that I think of. We have lawyers, we have tech people, we have interior designers.
That's it.
Or
Do
one or
you
two.
know who Jay Alexander is?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So you have magicians.
That's a
Yes.
magician?
Yes.
Yes, and there's so many magicians. We have authors. We have musicians.
At one point you told me there were some diplomats here too?
Yes.
Okay, see, I remember that correctly.
Yes.
We had so
I
many chats
just-
about that when we were paddleboarding, right?
Right. It's been so enriching.
Okay.
And almost to a little bit of a default, because it's like, why go outside of this community?
You don't need to.
You know, it's like your friendships have expanded and people are very collaborative, and people bringing their friends here. It's just such an enriching life.
And there's a lot of expats from other countries,
Oh,
right, who are
absolutely.
living over here. So
Absolutely.
I think that definitely it's like being a world traveler, just
I see
living
very
a lot of
international.
people are world travelers who
Oh,
end up living
so
here, right?
many, and so
Yeah.
many people. It's interesting. There's like a pocket of people that have their second homes in Vermont, all over Vermont.
Vermont, huh?
Yeah, interesting.
Oh, why?
I think we do have a few Canadians
I see.
that live here, and we have a few people that grew up and were raised on the East Coast.
Okay.
And I would say
Yeah.
a lot of people are very invested in our environment here. Okay, a lot of community services
Yeah.
Okay.
are expressed through people here. Yeah.
Okay. So, do you feel just so lucky every morning when you wake up, you look outside and it's Richardson Bay?
I am the most peaceful, the most centered, and still excited, you know, still like motivated to do my best work.
Okay.
This place feeds me. It's
Spiritually,
spiritually creative. Nature changes.
Yeah.
So you see colors and shapes and stuff, which really have a great influence on my creativity.
That's awesome.
It can be everything. It's peaceful, it's volatile, it's...
And I've heard that the having water around, just seeing water, is supposed to be very calming to your
Yes.
psyche.
Oh, absolutely.
Just-
I would agree with
Yeah.
that.
Don't you feel it whenever we go
yeah.
paddling?
Oh yeah, and I'm looking out the window here, and I can imagine, you know, living here, how cool it must be waking up in the morning and the sun rising and just the different
Absolutely.
colors on the water. And
Yeah.
do seals sometimes come right by here?
Oh,
Or do they-
absolutely.
Yeah.
They come on your dock?
Yes. Actually, there was a birth of a baby seal at the
Yes.
end dock here. But no, I've played games out there, literally with little baby pups from paddling from Sea Track. They are a species that can and have adapted to people on
Yes.
the water. And literally, I have played with them like cat and mouse games out on the water there.
They love
And
it.
oh my God, it was just, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, it's
Really?
very cool.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
you tell us about the seagull?
The
Oh,
seagull.
um,
The one. Tell us
So
the
there's
story
also
of the
seagulls
seagull.
My
around
experience
here, lots
with
of birds.
seagulls.
Yeah, your story.
Oh, Lordy. So I am fortunate that I have a rooftop. So the footprint of my houseboat, at least 75% is a rooftop. And on the rooftop, I have plants and planters, and at certain times of the year, seagulls look for a place to lay their eggs. And I guess my rooftop was very inviting, and so there was an egg laid. Actually, a girlfriend of mine was visiting me, and we were sitting on the rooftop and just catching up, right? And in front of us, they laid an egg.
Oh, they laid the egg
Yeah,
right in
and
front of
it
you?
looked like a rock.
Wow.
And then we're like,
It's
well,
not white?
we want to be correct and not disturb life. And so we left it. And then I proceeded to mention to someone, they said, oh, you need to go throw that egg overboard. Just like toss it, give it back. And I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Oh, like, no,
Doesn't
what
feel
will
right.
people think? It's not the right thing, which created a nightmare. Really, they squawked all the time. Anytime you go out on the rooftop or outside, there you would be swarmed with protective family members. And to one point that I got a little upset with them, quite honestly. They were disturbing my sleep for 4 months and on and on and on. So I got mad and told them I was not happy with them chatting up there all the time.
Was that a nice chat?
No, it was like a squawk. Oof. And it didn't go well for me.
Right.
I left the houseboat moments later, headed to walk down the dock, and they call it dive bombing, which is basically
You got pooped all over?
all over, slimed.
So you really feel that it was intentional based on your yelling at the birds?
Oh, absolutely. And I've been told that they're very protective.
Yeah, birds are smart.
It happened to me once, but I didn't do anything.
No. And it became part of the caring of this bird.
Okay.
It's like
Although
too
they
much.
do say it's good luck if you get pooped on by a bird.
I told you that.
I think it's just a way of covering up the misery of having that happen.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to make up some excuse to feel better about it.
So eventually the egg hatched.
The
Did
egg
you see
hatch,
this?
I have pictures of
Oh,
it
wow.
growing
Okay.
up. But anyway.
All right, so
my
that phase is
goodness.
over.
Your tendency
Well,
is over.
now I
The
have
tendency
to-
is over.
I have to flip my pots because they'll come back in May.
Yeah.
They remember.
Yeah.
But now you know what to do if you see another egg.
Run
you
up
would-
and throw it overboard.
Exactly. So everyone, that's what you do. I want to go back to talk about boats a little bit.
Sure.
There's so many interesting houseboats. What I learned is a lot of them have names.
Yes.
A lot of them are famous. There's the SS Vallejo. It's a very famous one.
Yes.
Have you heard of that one?
I have heard of it. I don't know much about that
It's
one.
privately owned now, but
Okay.
it was a public boat
It was.
for a while. And
Okay.
I was actually, I think it's the Vallejo, but that was the one that
Yeah.
was from Portland originally.
I think so. Yes.
And Alan Watts, Timothy Leary, Gary Snyder, and Allen Ginsberg had, like, in 1967 this. You can listen to it.
Yes.
It's like
Yes,
taped.
you're
Have
right.
you heard that? I don't know.
Yes.
It's like a whole conversation about dropping out and that whole movement was kind of interesting. But yeah, it was Alan Watts.
Right. So
was
they
the one. And they
collectively
had
met there and
Yeah.
did their sort of.
did a recording of this existential conversation.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are a lot of them. There are a few. I recognize them, very few. Taj Mahal.
Yeah, the Taj Mahal, that's been around forever. It looks like a Taj Mahal.
Mini
much
mini
further
version
down.
of a Taj Mahal, right?
Yeah, that's much further down.
You know what happened
And
to
we
the
almost
Taj
lost
Mahal?
that.
What happened to it?
Exactly.
storms, yeah.
Exactly. We have had tremendous storms. So
Okay.
basically, water got in and flooded the home.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the home ended up sitting on water,
Okay.
on the ground, I
On
should
the-
say.
right.
And they actually had figured out how to lift it to let the water out. It was fascinating.
But they were
Oh.
gonna scrap the whole thing for a
They
while. It looked like it was done for, and I think the cost of doing it was exorbitant. I don't know. how
It
much.
was amazing to see yet again
Yeah.
a community, and also
together.
Richardson Bay Fire Department.
Yeah.
It took a village
Yes.
to actually engineer how to raise it so that the
So
water
it's very
will
heavy.
drain. It's very heavy. So what they end up doing is putting like rubber. Floatable.
Yeah.
I mean, not floatable. What do you call it when you interject air or whatever into
Okay.
it?
Yeah.
Inflation,
Yes,
to inflate
inflate
it.
it,
That's
yeah.
right. And they positioned them by tipping the boat when it got to a level where there's some water.
Okay.
But they had to slip them in like slivers, and then they actually
Wow.
had these boats or pontoons that were around it, and then they raised it. And they
That's
raised it, and they
fascinating.
drained it and drained it. It was
I'm
a
just so
huge
glad
process.
they saved it.
Really,
'Cause-
it's looking great now.
Yeah, I remember
Yep.
that from when I was little. Just
Oh,
thinking
do
how
you?
cool it
Really?
was. Yeah, because I grew up in San Francisco.
All right.
And yeah. So.
And as I walk around, some of them were actually boats, become floating homes.
Yep.
And some were ferries.
Yes,
quite a few, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is the Yellow Ferry.
Yes, beautiful.
Beautiful. And that was a ferry all the way from Seattle, wasn't it? Yeah, City of Seattle. It was initially named City of Seattle. And it was a ferry, and it got moved over here, become a floating home, a house.
It's a floating Airbnb.
It is a floating Airbnb.
So
right?
There's two homes, or almost like a condominium in a sense, but two people own, and it's on the one float called Yellow Ferry,
Right.
and I do believe one rents out,
Yeah.
Right.
and the other is more of a permanent resident.
Oh, so there are actually two. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
it looks like one.
Right, it does.
The reason why it's a Yellow Ferry, it's like bright marigold.
Yeah.
It was
You cannot mistake. It's gorgeous.
It can't miss it. So when I checked, it was $682 per night. Depends on the time, but that's the price for that day. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and 2,600 square feet.
That's surprising that the price is so low, quite honestly.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the few Airbnb places that you can actually stay less than 30 days. Most
Absolutely.
of the
Oh, is that
Sausalito
right?
rental,
Okay.
it's
Absolutely.
30 days plus minimum.
The community doesn't
don't want that.
like that.
Right. They want to have people who are
More
tied to the
resident, more
community.
committed.
Permanent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what are some good surprises of living here?
I don't know about you, but I grew up having homes and driving in a driveway or figuring out where to park in the city. You really didn't get the opportunity of knowing people.
No.
It's enriching.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't avoid it here. You have to see people.
You're very close to all your neighbors.
Yeah, it's very
You can see
kind of
what everyone's up to,
rear
right?
window on the water.
Absolutely, but it's interesting. It's also so private.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's interesting
That's an
having,
interesting
we're almost like a
juxtaposition.
fishbowl, if you will.
Right.
But it is quite interesting. People are very respectful of everyone.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just love how there's so much whimsy around here. Like
It
there's
is.
so much whimsical stuff, like the mosaic.
So much
things that are
character,
over
right?
there.
It's just look at each one of
Yeah.
them. They are all very. There was mermaid as we were
Yeah.
walking here. There was a mermaid up there.
That's great.
Right.
As tile.
Yes.
And I think some of it was from Heath and also just there's potters here.
Yes.
There's potting ceramic studios very nearby. So a lot of it's gifted, and that's what's crazy about this community. That's just
Yeah.
So if you want to give anything away, you just leave it at the dock.
Oh.
And everyone takes it. Outboard, we haven't
Yeah.
touched on that, but people that live not on a dock.
Okay.
I mean, people give away.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's thrown away.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing I noticed is, this place, your place, the space is used so efficiently. It
No
feels
wasted space.
right. It feels like spacious or enough, right?
We hide our stuff.
But then you cannot accumulate tons of junk like we do. Like when I have a basement, everything goes to the basement.
Although some people do seem to accumulate a lot.
A little more than others.
Yeah,
a little more than
there's
others.
one in particular that likes a lot of stuff. I would say majority of people have a storage locker.
Yeah.
Okay.
The hull serves as a storage locker.
I see.
A place to put, but it's not always good for. It's damp. It's
Yeah.
wet.
Right,
It's
right.
more to the element,
Right.
But I would say people really try to edit here.
Right.
Yeah.
They're constantly.
You have to. Yeah.
have to. There's not a lot of space.
Yeah.
Which make us
Life simpler. In a sense.
simpler and accumulate less, right? No
Mhm.
matter what, you don't buy random things
Mhm.
just because you don't really have a space for random things.
Exactly.
So it's awesome.
One question I would have, would you say that these homes, like how many of these are secondary homes for people versus primary residents?
It's changing in the 5 years I've been here. From being born in a hospital, but living on a dock. There's been a lot of new families. There are people that are 92 on the stock right now. I think the median age is probably 50,
Okay.
if not 55. So you have a lot of older people that still enjoy living here. I would say there's a handful of people that have second homes.
Okay.
They might be gone for 3 months or 6 months. They're either traveling and they might leave it to family or sublease it. But it's an investment. I mean, when you live on the dock, you're paying for your slip fees.
Right.
You're paying for everything you would pay on land, with the exception you don't pay for your parking. And you can decide what services you want, but it's sort of built into the property. So I think people have a tendency to really set roots here, if you will.
Yes.
And are committed to the lifestyle.
So that just made me think of one more question,
Sure.
which is the bathroom situation. What happens
We
with
do have
the
bathrooms.
bathroom
We do have
situation?
bathrooms.
You do have bathrooms.
Regular,
Two
I think
nice
it's
bathrooms.
regular bathrooms.
Pretty much everyone
But I
has
guess what I
bathrooms.
mean is,
how do we process?
what happens?
How do
Waste.
we stay connected to the services
sewer.
land provides?
Yes, the sewer. What happens?
Well, that is interesting. So one thing I have to say is that by regulation in the harbor and in waterways, there's a certain percentage of water that can be covered by a houseboat or by a dock.
Okay.
So we are allocated, or the governing part of this water is allocated to how much space we can occupy on the water. And in that, our services are connected to land. So in terms of the sewage, we're very sensitive about the use of our toilets, because each home has what we call forced plumbing, because often it's coming from the bottom up. And so the way in which your bathrooms and your plumbing setup is different than on land.
Right.
So you have a holding tank. The holding tank has a limit to its holding capacity.
Okay.
So it's constantly flushed, and pipes are underneath the dock.
I see.
Okay, and
There's
that
large
goes to a
pipes that
sewer
goes
place.
to
Okay.
a plant.
So it's not like somebody has to come out here and drain it for you.
No, the only problem is if all of them are regulated to have an alarm, but sometimes you don't hear alarm, it's underneath, or you're sleeping or whatever. And if you don't hear an alarm, the alarm tells you that your tank is filling up and you have, I don't know how long, minutes? No. But they overflow.
Yeah.
And that's a messy situation. But we do have people that come and deal with that for us.
Okay.
Well, of course.
So we have special needs, if you will, on
Yeah.
the dock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Wow. So I guess just to conclude, you love living.
You would recommend it.
You would recommend it. The answer is yes.
It's
just watch it.
alternative lifestyle in that, you have compromises,
Sure.
getting your food and grocery, some of the things that we have got accustomed to living are a little altered here.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And for now, I'm the happiest living here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. I can't
It's
wait.
a long walk from the parking lot to the house,
8
but
minutes.
So you buy less, I think.
They have
That's-
shopping carts. Have you seen those large shopping
Oh,
carts?
okay.
You load it up with groceries or
There you
whatever
go.
to
That makes
help
sense.
you move things.
Transport things. Okay,
but
that
there's
makes
nothing like that view and waking up to that in the morning
Start
and going
with
to bed
yes.
at night.
Start with Yellow Ferry is my recommendation. Try that out.
Yeah.
We have been trying. We have been saying
Yeah.
that. We just haven't
Yeah.
done it. We should try that one day. But thank you so much, Leisa. Thank you so much for having us and
Giving us a glimpse into life on the floating homes.
It's awesome.
It's a pleasure for me.
I can't wait to try it.
Yeah. Well, come stay. I've got an extra bedroom.
That's right. I'll be afraid to use the bathroom. I'm like terrified. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Bye
Thanks for
now.
sharing.